Okay, so I want to talk about classic rock radio. I remember when I was growing up in junior high and high school, this would have been about 35 years ago, the late 80s, early 90s. You had, from what I remember, that's when the classic rock radio format started springing up. You had classic rock stations popping up, and that's kind of how I got exposed to classic rock, and that's how I became a fan, and it's what I've listened to all my life, and it's what I still listen to today. And I'm one of those people who actually still listens to the radio. And today when I got in my car to go to the grocery store to make my weekly grocery shopping run, I turned on the classic rock station, and on comes Bad Company by Bad Company, which is a good song. It's a great song, but for some reason I just wasn't in the mood, because once you've heard a song 5,000 times, maybe I was in a bad mood, I don't know, and that got me thinking about the classic rock radio format. Where I live in the Detroit area, we've got 2 classic rock radio stations and 1 album-oriented rock radio station, which plays a lot of the classic rock. So when you think about 3 stations in Detroit, a pretty good sized radio market, playing classic rock. Now when you think about the classic rock radio format, think about when it started. The music they were playing was probably barely 10 years old. Back in the late 80s, they were playing a lot of this stuff from the 70s, the Led Zeppelins, Steve Miller, Foreigner, those kind of bands. And when you fast forward to now, 35 years later, you turn on a classic rock station, I would say that 90 to 95% of the programming on a classic rock radio station today is exactly the same as it was 35 years ago. The format has not changed. I mean, if you listen to classic rock now, every now and again they'll mix in a song by, say, Nirvana or the Black Crowes, in between selections from Journey or Queen. But the vast majority, I would say 90 to 95% of the music they play on classic rock radio today is exactly the same as it was 35 years ago. Music that was barely 10 years old back then. So you think about the demographics for classic rock radio when the format started, you're probably looking at people who were teenagers or in their 20s back in the 70s, late 60s. So probably back then it would have been people in their 30s, maybe early 40s. And then if you fast forward to today, those same people are going to be in their late 60s and 70s. And if you know anything about radio programming or advertising, coveted demographics for advertisers, and you think about classic rock, which is probably a predominantly male audience. So guys in their 70s is not a coveted demographic for advertisers. I mean, how many ads for ED medication or crematory services can you run? But then you think about guys like me who still listen to classic rock, guys who are in their 40s, and then maybe there's some younger people who listen to classic rock radio because, now it's so much easier to get exposed to older music. I mean, when I was growing up, you had to rely on your parents' record collection. That's how you got exposed to older music, through your parents. Nowadays, kids, they can go on the internet. They got streaming services, YouTube. They can listen to music from any era. So maybe younger people are into classic rock now, but when you think about younger people who consume their music through streaming services, they're not listening to terrestrial radio. Or maybe they are, because I turned on classic rock radio, they went to a commercial break and they were advertising the iHeartRadio Festival, which featured a lot of newer groups like Dua Lipa. And this is on a classic rock radio station they're advertising this. So maybe classic rock does have a bigger reach. Maybe young people are listening to the radio. But I was just thinking about this today when that Bad Company song came on. I was like, man, I've heard this 10,000 times. And I kind of got a bit frustrated because you hear the same stuff over and over again. Classic rock radio, the same songs for 35 years. Songs that are now 45, 50 years old, 55 years old. But it's just something that was on my mind I wanted to touch. What do you guys think? Some of you older guys out there, do you still listen to the radio, listen to classic rock radio? Or maybe some younger people, are younger people listening to terrestrial radio? Let me know what you think in the comments. And that's just what I wanted to talk about today. So have a good day, and we'll see you next time.